What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kilo Loco, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, I had the opportunity to sit down with Afraz from iOS Academy, and we were having such a great conversation, and it was all recorded. As a matter of fact, this is the second video of that conversation. So if you haven't already watched the first video, make sure you go check it out on his channel right up over there, and you can get the first half of this conversation. This is going to be the second half. So just a little bit of a sneak peek about what we talk about in this conversation. We're talking about iOS career advice. We're talking about things that we hate about iOS development. It's just a real good time just to sit back, relax, and just, hang out with us and just listen to some of the gripes of an iOS developer. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump right on into this conversation.
Thought when you published your first app, but you can go and pull up the app store and like type in your app and show people and your name is on there. It just hits differently, right?
It does.
It's amazing, right? Like I remember I still have the source code for my very first app. It was two buttons and a label, and all it did was it changed the size of the label. And mind you, this was like 10 years ago, so Apple wasn't super. They didn't scrutinize how simple it was, and they approved it. I don't know if that would be the case today, but
Dude, that's hilarious. My second app was that. That was my second app that I put out in my app store. It's
oh,
called
was it?
Read. It's just large font. It was a text. Yeah, I made it in one afternoon. I
Yeah,
made it first because I made it for myself because I was gonna go visit my late grandfather, and he was hard of hearing.
right.
So instead of yelling at him all the time, I just made this app where I had a text field, no, a text view because it has scrolling, right?
Yeah,
A text view that was like in huge font. You couldn't even change the size of the font. It was just
yeah.
really large. And then I would like type something in and I'd show it to him, and then he would read it and he'd answer me. And
That's
then I ended
so
up
funny.
putting it out on the App Store. It was like 70 lines of code. I was so excited, and that
Yeah.
was my second app.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone here to heard it here, right? Like we have very similar apps. Like they're super simple, and like it's not even about the app in the beginning, right? It's about the fact that like you went through the motions and you feel like you did something, right? And like I think that's always kind of been my mantra of like I also try to live by that mean, right? Like even if you're working on something you don't get it, right? It's like Rome isn't built in a day. You need to go through it piece by piece. And I think especially online with like people showing like what they've built on Twitter and like all these like different blog posts, I think it's very demotivating for some people sometimes, right, to like see all these things that others are doing. But I think what I always kind of preach is don't compare yourself to every other like dev out there and every other company that's building something. Compare yourself to the same time you were sitting in that same chair yesterday, right? As
Yep.
long as you're one step further than yesterday, like you're golden. Just keep on going.
That is actually applicable to like lots of areas of life. Like I know that there's like a lot of like other people that want to do YouTube, right? Like I try to help support other YouTubers because I know exactly how hard and how like
Yep.
yeah, it's just like you need that motivation. You need like to keep going, and if you keep comparing yourself to other people, then you're just like you're just gonna like want to give up because it's like, oh well, I'm not growing fast enough, or like what, all these different negative thoughts. And same thing goes for programming. It's like, oh well, you know so and so is doing this and so got hired over here, and it's like, what am I doing? It's like, don't compare yourself to other people because everybody's coming from a different different walk of life, different circumstances. Some people are luckier than others and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What if you look back to last year, are you in a better spot than you were this year? And if not, then how do you fix that? Like, what can you do today to get to that better spot? So
Yeah. No, I
absolutely,
completely
just
agree.
compare against yourself.
The YouTube thing is pretty funny. I remember my first few dozen videos. They would all have two views. It would be me and then me refreshing the page to see if there was another view.
Hell yes.
So I get it. I hear you. I completely agree. But yeah, no, right on. Okay, cool. Let's transition to something a little less, I guess, iOS technical specific. But I guess we can answer this iOS related. But generally, what do you think the biggest kind of mistake was that you made in your career? I guess it could have been technically if you broke some piece of code, or it could have been, a missed opportunity. But
Oh
I
shit.
guess for somebody sitting in the shoes of like here's two guys that have been doing iOS for 5+ years. like what was your biggest blunder, I guess, and what should other people avoid?
Um,
It's a hard question.
I would say so. I would say that if you're doing this for like as a job and you're looking for like some advice on something to try to avoid, I would say try to avoid always being like the yes man or like the person that is always willing to do the job, right? Like to try to prove yourself. Don't try to keep trying to like don't be overly insistent to try to prove yourself. And like it's good to continue to learn and to show like enthusiasm and passion, but like don't constantly focus on making yourself the person that can do the job and just like being like willing to figure out how to do it, because although it's like helpful, it can backfire. And I'll share a little story about when this backfired. So I had a client, I was doing a freelancing, right? And I had a client and their back end was in Firebase, and I was I they wanted to have something done with their cloud functions, right?
Nope.
And back then I didn't know JavaScript like hardly at all. Like I still don't know it that well, but like I really didn't know it. And the documentation wasn't really helping me with the problem. I was trying to delete an object from the database after I used it. Well, I don't know JavaScript. I actually dislike JavaScript, and this added to my dislike of JavaScript. And what ended up happening, because I couldn't figure it out, was I kept trying different things, right? Like
Right.
developers, you keep trying until you figure it out, right?
Oh,
Like,
work. Yep.
uh, well, I ended up dropping the entire database, and all the data got lost. And I had to reach out to Google technical support, because luckily they keep backups of their data. Like they keep everybody's data, and it took about 3 or 4 hours to get it restored to the last state. But yeah, it was because I had said, "Oh well, I could figure out that feature. I'll just throw it in there. I'll do it for you." And yeah, like I shouldn't have done that. It was outside of my realm of expertise. I wasn't getting paid any extra. I just wanted to like go in above and beyond, but ended up dropping a table and or dropping the database, and whoo, did I almost throw up.
Yeah, so let me ask: did the client know? Was this a
Yeah,
conversation?
I called them immediately. Like, well, first, no, first, look, first thing that I did was I figured out how do I undo this, right? I went like I Googled it, found like a
How to
Stack
restore a
Overflow.
database?
Yeah, how to restore, because this is apparently something that was very common. I don't know if it's still common, but like a lot of people had done something very similar.
Right.
Uh, I don't know why you can do that so easily, but
It sounds like an oversight on Google part.
I
Not a
was like,
mistake.
I just wanted to delete this one object, not the whole entire the entire database. Anyways, yeah, so in the Stack Overflow answers, they said that there's like a a line that you can call where you can have it restored. Um, so I called them, I got it like all figured out, and they said that it's going to take about like 3 to 4 hours or something like that to get it restored. Then I immediately called the client, and I was like, hey, look, this is what happened. Like all the data got deleted, blah, blah, blah. And now luckily this was like, it was still like kind of dummy data. It wasn't like production live data because the app hadn't been fully launched yet,
Right.
but it was still like, it was still real, like strong test data that was very important.
Right.
And luckily the person had been an engineer, and they had been like what is it, a CTO for
Yeah.
a while, so they're used to like shit happening.
Yeah.
So luckily he was extremely understanding, and he like kind of comforted me in that situation. But like, yeah, like that was one of the worst things that I've ever done as a developer, and it was because I was trying to go above and beyond and over deliver,
Yeah.
and sometimes it could just turn into a problem.
Yeah. I mean, everyone heard it here first, right? Don't be a yes man, and definitely don't delete full databases.
Yeah, don't do
That's
don't drop tables, don't
I
drop
mean,
databases.
that's I think one big takeaway there also is like, I guess before I get into my answer to that question is, if you screw up, right, be honest about it, right? People screw up, right? Fix it, and I think take away a lesson from it, right? Because I also think I've seen, and I might be guilty of this myself until I've learned a lesson twice, right? Is like, learn something from it, right? Don't just like sweep it under the rug and be like it's fine and let that same thing happen again, because at that point, it's a little bit like, well, you should have known better after the first time, right? Like what happened, you know how to handle it, right? We'll take something away from it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, oh man, career advice. The biggest, I mean, I think you kind of took one of mine, right? I think mine is kind of tangential. Maybe like once again a bit of a cop out, but I think the biggest thing is like focus on, be enthusiastic, but be like listen. I guess like the way I say it is like, make sure you're listening more and speaking less. And I think sometimes it's interpreted and not the greatest of lights. And I think my interpretation of that is, you might be an expert in your field, but you're not an expert in every field. And even if you're an expert in an area, everything, especially in the land of like developers, is changing so much. Uh, don't be the cocky person in the room, right? Like be humble about what you know, right? Go and look at things from a very fresh perspective. If you're joining a new team professionally, if you really know something, that's great. You can be confident at what you know, but you should never, in my opinion, get to the point where you feel that all there is to know about a particular thing. My experience with that is, you get arrogant, right? Like you
Yeah.
close yourself off to learning something, and then if somebody, like, it can also result in, somebody does teach you something, you don't want to be like kind of offended and be salty about it later and be like, well, I didn't know that, right? That's normal. You can't know everything. Like, you know what you know because you learned it. We all started from like square one, and it's cool if somebody knows more than you or teaches you something that you don't. Like, learn from it, appreciate that, and like kind of store it away like all of us developers do, right? The millions of things that we learn, and maybe it comes in handy one day, maybe it doesn't, and you just learn something new.
Yeah, don't like, I don't care how long you've been in the industry, um never feel like you're too senior to learn from somebody. Like, I have continuously learned little things here and there that have just built up to so much information over the years, just from like developers that were just more junior to me.
Yep.
um so like, always come in with like an open mind. You always want to just be open to learning something new, because if you think that you know everything, then you pretty much don't have any more room to learn, and you're not going to be open to new concepts, and it's probably going to actually be a negative effect on if you're working on a team. So that's
Yeah,
another thing.
I totally agree. Let's segue into some I guess some more controversial fun topics here, and then we'll wrap up with I guess future plans for this crazy year, which has already started out crazy. But what's your least enjoyable aspects of iOS? What do you hate? If you could change one thing, what would you change?
iOS development is pretty good. I gotta say, it's the smoothest platform to develop on. I stand true to that, and I've played with like a lot of different platforms. So there's not a whole lot that I would complain about, but one thing is like, I guess one little thing is like, Xcode can be a pain in the ass sometimes,
Yup, I was just about to say that. I was like waiting.
like just features will just stop working, like autocomplete, syntax
Yep.
highlighting, especially like with Swift UI,
Yep.
like, and especially combine. Oh my God, you you make one you make one wrong
Oh,
return statement, you have
yep.
mismatching. Oh, it's useless.
Brutal.
You just have to know what you're doing.
Yep.
And then once you get to the very last, like the last thing of your statement, then it'll like come back and it's like, oh, thanks. Now that I don't need all that syntax highlighting, I did it myself.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Xcode is kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. And then also the Apple docs kind of suck, right? Like I said, like unless you're really strong with UI kit and you're trying to learn something, like if you're trying to learn something new and you don't know UI kit really well, then you're going to probably run into some problems. Like I know that I know that they're getting better, like what Apple's been doing with those really cool, like interactive, like scrolling docs that they have now where they teach you how to use SwiftUI and things like that. Those are really cool. I hope that they keep doing more of those. But like a lot of their other APIs or libraries, just
Yeah.
it's hard to go through those docs.
Yeah. I mean, I Xcode like +1 times 100. Xcode sucks sometimes. I think every time I complain about Xcode, I kind of feel bad about it because I remember using Xcode like 9, 10 years ago, and it has definitely come a very long way. But also, there's just like some things that peeve me about it so much. Like syntax highlighting will randomly stop, like you said. It'll just crash sometimes. Like previews won't load. It's just like I just like Apple can do so many things, right? Like make your IDE work. I think that's what perspective I take, but then also I think reasonable me comes out and I'm like, okay, we can just close Xcode and reopen it. It's not the world's biggest deal.
Yeah,
Um,
like it's really not that bad. It's just like and people give like Xcode a lot of shit. They're like, oh well, you can't refactor all these things. I'm like, shit, how often are you refactoring all of these things? Like,
said every Android
Jesus
developer uses
Christ.
Jetpack. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's not perfect, but like what IDE is. I do think one thing which Apple has a bit of a ways to go on is and I think this is like very like this does not impact the majority is architecture, like build systems. So like working on big apps, like big projects, right? Like I can share a little bit of insight about a good friend of mine works in the LinkedIn team. Their app takes 2 hours to compile from fresh, like a cold build. They're
Who?
recently moving over to Google's build system, which is a lot of caching and fancy business for you, right? 2 hours to compile is like you literally cannot do your job. um,
Yeah.
so like I think that issue does not impact the majority, but if I had to be very nitpicky and be like one thing I hate, like Apple could do better with their build tooling and IDE.
You know,
Um,
the build things, I think it really does come down to the developer because there are ways to fix that. Like when I was working at my last job, when I first got there, the build times were about 15 minutes long, and then they ended up getting it down to 5 minutes by doing some like optimizations. They just had to like drill into it and get it, just focus on build times, right? Like they just had to focus on that. So I wonder like how much time has gone into like the optimizations. I'm assuming that probably a good amount of time if it's linked in, but yeah, like 2 hours is just ridiculous time to upgrade to M1s, I guess. But I have an M1 and that's not even like as fast as like people
yeah.
claim it to be, but whatever.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is architecture, how you, like you said, how you have the project set up. Another big part of it is also like with these larger teams and projects, especially for people watching that kind of don't have like industry experience, the larger an app gets and the larger the engineering staff, right? You start to break off into teams and everyone's building like their own framework and like everything's integrated back into like the project, right? Like that's one approach. And I think the challenge becomes like cool, you worked on your piece and like it compiles if you're building up like a framework or a cocoa pod or something. And then when you go and plug it back into like the monolith that is your app, you're just like sitting there looking at a blue bar and you're like, is it done? Is it done? Like I mean, that's me at least. And it's like, it drives me insane. Um, there's solutions out there. So like, once again, being very nitpicky, but not the end of the world by any means. I think I would pick this much over like debugging like the backend stuff, right? Like backend stuff, you don't have to compile, but like, man, like ports, gateways, right? Like different like headers that you're passing, like backend stuff can be a bigger nightmare in my experience.
Yeah, and I've had like long build times on Android too for like
Yep.
just like even small projects too. It's like sometimes just Android Studio, I don't know what it's
It's
doing,
great,
man.
man.
It's
It's
like
great.
what's going on?
That's great.
Oh man. But
Um,
yeah.
all right, last question. What's up for 2021? Last year is definitely, shall we call it, eventful, to put it nicely. This year has also started interesting. Generally, what do you have going on? YouTube, what do you got going on for your channel plans and iOS?
Yeah, so at the moment, the time of recording, we're in February, and this 30 days of Flutter has hashtag 30 days of Flutter had actually kicked off. So I'm trying to stay on top of that, create videos for those 30 days and see what I can get out and try to help people like get started with Flutter development. I really enjoy Flutter. I think it's really cool. Um, and yeah, like this year, especially, I'm going to be focusing on doing the three platforms that I enjoy most, which are native iOS with Swift, native Android with Kotlin, and Flutter. And I want to cover those videos extensively. And I am a senior developer advocate at AWS Amplify. So there's like a lot of like cloud-based, videos that I want to do too. Like just the other day I had created like this video covering how to do push notifications using Swift for the front end and like for your iOS app, and for the back end using AWS Lambda. And it was like really cool to just be like full stack Swift, like, and it's serverless, so it's like it's even better in my opinion because like I don't have to worry about setting up like a whole server or EC2 instance and all this stuff. So yeah, like those are like I guess four categories. So iOS, Flutter, Android, and then like serverless stuff. Like if it's as long as it's with like Swift or something like that.
Yeah. That was awesome. I think all three platforms are very interesting. I think Flutter, I'm always at a love-hate relationship with Flutter, so I'll definitely be checking out those 30 days of Flutter. And hopefully that'll turn into more love and less hate. But no, that sounds awesome, man. Um, yeah, and I think for me, Swift all the way, Swift UI. Hopefully that continues. I think generally speaking, I'm pretty excited for Dub Dub this year. I don't know. I have a feeling that Apple's gonna go all in on Swift UI. I'm pretty excited to see what they do with all these like AR like rumors flying around. Uh, I have no clue what they're gonna do, but I'm pretty excited for that. And yeah, I mean, staying on that iOS train and a bunch of videos to come for that. And yeah,
Dude, I'm gonna be so pissed if they start releasing more features that are iOS 15 only. The whole entire this iOS 14 only stuff, like the grids, right? For Swift
yeah,
UI, and I think some of the compositional layout, like the lists or something like that, for collection views only being available on like iOS 14. I was like,
I don't know why
what
they
are
do
you
that also
doing?
because they could backport that to 13 fairly easily. Like, you just
Exactly.
forward.
That's all I want is just 13 to be covered. But like the fact that you're
Yeah,
making it 14, it's like you're making it so much harder for Swift UI to actually be adopted by
yeah,
developers, because especially with grids, like that's a fundamental. It should have been in the first version. And the
yeah.
fact that like
Also, like
that it's
lazy
only,
grid. That's also
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like
yeah,
all of this stuff should have been backported to 23 to iOS 13.
yeah.
Like, so if they start putting out more cool stuff where it's 2015, I'm just going to be really disappointed in Apple. Obviously, I'm still going to make videos on it, but still, come on.
Yeah. And for anyone watching who isn't subscribed to Kyle, Kilo Loco, link down below. Go head on over. Go smash the like button on every video. Watch every video.
Oh,
Same.
don't watch every video. I make long ass videos. You don't want to watch all of those
Honestly,
videos.
though, long videos, I think we need more long videos. I used to make longer videos too, and then people started complaining. I think they got shorter. I just put up a poll up today. If people want longer or shorter, and everybody wants longer now. So I'm not sure what people want, but in my experience, like if it's a long video, you can just forward it, right? Like you can, but at least like you cover all the details, right? And I think in my mind, that's very beneficial to like see all the nitty gritty that goes into doing something. Because oftentimes we do it and it's like, well, like you didn't cover this one piece. It doesn't work for me now. Like I'm gonna dislike your video. It's like, okay, but
Yeah, like I've gone through all the ranges, right? Like I started off doing videos that were over an hour long, because I didn't edit. I just wanted to get the videos out there.
yep,
Then I was starting editing, and then they got around the range of like 30 to 45 minutes.
yep,
Then I started to try to chop it up and like get it down, and now they're like anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes.
yep,
I think that's a pretty good range for like most topics. I did experiment with a format where I could get it into less than 10 minutes, but one, it was really unenjoyable to record. There's like so much editing because I was then just doing something on the screen, but I wasn't doing it live when I was recording. It was just like a recording and I was doing the voiceover. And
right.
I don't like that. It
Either.
doesn't feel natural. The timing and pacing is off, and it's a lot of work. So I decided to just go back to like these 15 to 30, like 15 to 45 minute videos and
Yep.
stay in that range because that's where I feel comfortable. I get to explain as many things as I can. And I try to, the way that I approach the videos is like, I want to teach you so that you understand the concepts so that you don't have to come back and watch this video.
Right.
Um, so that you like you understand it and you actually learn it. I don't want to just show you how to just do something you just copy paste. I mean, if you need that, go check out an article or something like that, right?
Right.
So like I'm there to actually like kind of teach, and that's why my videos are super duper long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, like I think it's probably super appreciated by a lot of people out there. So, no, it's interesting. I also think like, I guess we can, let's see how we're doing on time. We're almost, yeah, we're at time. Uh, yeah, I think the one thing I'll toss in there is I'm a big fan of like doing it live while you record. Like, yes, there'll be editing, but I also like including like when I make a mistake myself, right? Like, part of me likes leaving that in the video and like debugging it, kind of like live and in action, because like it kind of lifts the curtain behind like nobody's writing perfect code. Like everyone has Stack Overflow references open, right? Like everyone's like asking people to like we're all googling stuff. Like we're all hitting like really vague, like weird Xcode errors. We're like, what the heck does this mean, right? And I
Yeah,
think like I really don't like portraying the kind of notion of like you need to be this good to like be an iOS dev because like it's not realistic. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And like one other thing that I'll say is like, you know, if it takes you X amount of minutes to watch the video and you're watching it at like 2 times the speed, how long do you think it took to make the video? And
yep,
just keep that in mind, like, because
yeah, yeah,
it didn't take just however many minutes are in that video to make that video.
yeah. Yeah, I think most people don't know that, and you and I can speak to that both firsthand. Like, it's a lot of effort to make videos, but I mean, in my mind, it's paying it forward, right? Because like I personally
Oh,
did benefit from videos, albeit there weren't as many back in the day. But I paying it forward. I also enjoy the platforms, and I think it's a good opportunity to learn in general. And just like there needs to be more iOS content out there. Period.
absolutely, absolutely. There's so many areas that we're like we need to get covered, and the more iOS developers that we can have like sharing their experience, I think it helps lift everybody else up.
Yep, totally agree. All right, man. This has been great. Um, Everyone watching, if you haven't destroyed the like button already, make sure to do so. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm. You guys have heard the spiel 20 million times. Throw a comment down below what you guys want to hear next, see next, video topics, suggestions, the whole 9 yards. And definitely destroy that subscribe button to stick around for daily Swift updates. And if you haven't already, of course, check out Kyle's channel. Super awesome stuff. I'm going to go take a look at Flutter myself and hopefully not cry in the process. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.
All right, go out there, code passionately, everybody. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for sticking around all the way to the end of the video to hear the entire conversation. We both really appreciate it. And let us know, do you like these types of conversations where we're able to just, talk back and forth about iOS related concepts? Do you want to hear more from us? Do you want us to have another collab? Let us know in the comments down below. We would love to collab again, bring you some more awesome content, and we could talk about any range of topics. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you for your time. If you haven't already subscribed to me and to Afraz at iOS Academy, make sure you do so. And then after you do that, make sure you go out there and you keep coding passionately.